A few weeks ago, Google released the Fitbit Air activity tracker, and one of the common thoughts or narratives I saw coming out of those reviews was that the Fitbit Air, along with other screenless trackers like the Oura Ring or the Whoop Band, were better devices than a smartwatch like the Apple Watch because they don't have screens, and that we all have enough screens in our life distracting us that we don't need another one on our activity tracker. That's an interesting thought to me because for years I've been using my Apple Watch as a device to help me focus while staying connected to the people and things that I actually care about. So I figured it'd be useful to do a video to go over the ways you can customize your Apple Watch so that it's a device that helps you focus instead of another screen that's just vying for your attention. So one of the first things you probably want to do is turn on silent mode. You could do that in a few different places. On the watch itself, go into the Settings app, scroll down to Sound and Haptics, and then turn on silent mode. You can also do this from Control Center on the watch. So press the side button under the digital crown, bring up Control Center, scroll down to where you see this bell icon, and then tap that to toggle silent mode on or off. To configure this from your iPhone, go into the Apple Watch app, scroll down to Sound and Haptics, and then turn on silent mode there. 99% of the time, this is how I use my watch, in silent mode. And the reason you can do that is because of the great haptics built into the watch. So Apple calls it the Taptic Engine. I believe it's more or less just a linear actuator, but the gentle vibrations from the Apple Watch make it so that you really don't need the sounds. The watch just kind of taps you as it needs to get your attention. One of my favorite use cases is actually with alarms. So in the morning, I can get gently woken up by my watch tapping me on my wrist without disturbing anyone else in the room. But if you're someone who doesn't want your watch vibrating at all, you can turn off haptics completely, again in that same area in Sound and Haptics, either in the watch settings or in the watch app on the iPhone, and going into the haptics section and turning that off. A great way to cut down on the temptation to check your watch is to turn off the notifications indicator. Now this is the red dot that shows up at the top of your watch face if you have a new unread notification. You can disable this on the watch itself by going into the Settings app, going into Notifications, and then toggling off Notifications indicator. And you can do the same thing on the watch app on the phone as well, going into Notifications and turning off the Notifications indicator. So I'll readily admit that notification management on watchOS is pretty lacking. By default, when you set up your new watch, it just mirrors the notification settings from your iPhone, which means if you're getting bombarded by notifications on your phone, you probably will on your watch as well. And I think a lot of people leave that as the default. We can do better. So to properly configure your notifications on your watch, you'll need to use the Apple Watch app on the iPhone. So let's go into the watch app and then go into notifications. We'll scroll down a bit here and you'll see that the notification settings are broadly grouped into two different groups. One for native watchOS apps and one for iPhone apps which will forward their notifications to your watch. Native watchOS apps, like the built-in Apple apps, can have more granular notification settings, even though a lot of them generally won't. What you'll see when you go in to customize these is broadly two different settings. You'll see Mirror My iPhone, which is the default, again, just mirroring whatever notification settings your iPhone has for that app, or Custom. And Custom will generally have three different sub-options. Allow notifications, which is the default, Send to Notification Center, which will silently forward that notification to Notification Center on your watch without showing you the banner or the pop-up, or turn off the notifications in general. You can also scroll down and turn on or off sound if you prefer that app's notification to audibly give you an alert. At the bottom, there's a notification grouping section, which gives you more granular control over how notifications get grouped in Notification Center. The offsetting means that every notification shows individually in its own little bubble there. Automatically, which I believe is the default, is going to try to intelligently group notifications from an app where it makes sense. The best example would be something like Messages, where Notification Center You should be able to see notifications grouped by contact or by group chats in separate groups. And with the by app setting, we'll just group all the notifications from a single app into one big group. And this is kind of where the work starts, because configuring apps in this section is a per app affair. There's no good way to change the settings for multiple apps at once. You're going through one by one and either turning them off or dialing them down to a level that makes you feel comfortable. And that's going to take some time, but I'd argue it's very much worth the investment. Configuring the settings for a few key Apple apps is going to go a long way to taming the notification overload you might get on your watch. For the Mail app, you're actually able to turn on or off notifications on a per account basis. Now for me, I turn all of them off except for my iCloud email and then my email for the site / this channel. Those are the only two accounts I really care about getting notified on my wrist for. Everything else can wait until I get back to my iPad. Next, let's go into the Calendar app. Now here you can configure the types of notifications you get for your calendars. But what I found more useful is just to limit the number of calendars on my watch to begin with. Now I have a lot of calendars, a lot of them I honestly probably don't even need, but very, very few do I care to have on my wrist. It's really at this point just my iCloud calendars. If you're not using Apple's fitness software, if you're using like a third-party app, or maybe you're one of the people who buys an Apple Watch just for, time tracking and notifications, but not fitness, you'll want to turn off Apple's activity notifications. And that's going into the activity app settings and basically turning those all off. Alternately, you can also just turn off the ones you don't care about. For a lot of people, I think it would be the stand notifications that come up once an hour if you haven't gotten up and walked for a minute in that hour. By default, when you set a timer or alarm on your phone, you get the same alert on your watch when it goes off. Now, I find this to be incredibly useful, but if you don't and you want to turn off that behavior, you can do that in the clock app settings and turn off push alerts from iPhone. And lastly, if you're an Apple Maps user, you probably have noticed that you get haptic feedback on your wrist for different turn notifications if you're using turn-by-turn navigation. You can actually disable that behavior, both the haptics and notification, in the Maps app settings. And you can do this on a per navigation method basis. So you can keep them on for driving, but keep them off if you're driving in a car with CarPlay, for example. Focus modes on iOS and iPadOS could really be their own topic, but I mention them here because they sync with your Apple Watch, and they're one of the most powerful tools you have for combating notification overload. Focus modes are kind of like profiles that you set up on your phone or your tablet that define certain settings, like who or what apps can interrupt you at what times. For example, I have a work focus mode that I've configured to turn on during normal business hours or when I'm at the office. I've limited the people that I will get notified for in that mode, and I've limited the apps that can notify me when I'm in this focus mode as well. Focus modes can be configured to activate based on different criteria. Like I mentioned, time of day, day of the week, certain apps are opened. You have some flexibility here as to when these modes get invoked. And again, they sync with your watch. So if you've left your Apple Watch more or less on mirroring your iPhone notification settings, then turning on this focus mode benefits you on both the phone and the watch. Focus modes are something you really have to configure on your iPhone. There's not a lot for settings on the watch itself for configuring your focus modes outside of defining a time of day. If you're willing to put a little bit of time into configuring some of the settings, an Apple Watch can be a device that helps bring you focus and help you stay present in the moment. And I believe this is one of the original goals with the Apple Watch. Even though today Apple pretty much exclusively markets the watch as a health and fitness device, I think one of their goals was to help people to disconnect a little bit from their phones and be present in the moment with the people and things you care about, while still being connected and reachable if needed. That's going to do it for this one. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I really appreciate you and your time. If you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would help me and the channel out a bunch. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and take care.